Hey, today I'm going to be showing you a game called Undermine. It's a roguelike, released in 2020 and it's my favourite one ever. That choice is a little weird though, it's going to take some explaining, but hopefully by the end of this video you'll have bought the game and it'll be your favourite too now or something, I don't know. This game has bundles of charm and very select targeted areas where it does things really well and things which make it a bit odd compared to your typical roguelike. Not everyone is going to love it straight away or even after playing it at all, but it doesn't get the attention it deserves for filling in the little niche that it does. It's not the most in-depth roguelike ever, I can't see it being super replayable into the future for me, but it's also extremely chaotic, extremely smooth, extremely fun, and it lets you live out your gold hoarding Irish fantasies. Alright, so Undermine is a very simple game and concept. You, the miner, are tasked with jumping into a mine, to get gold and any other cool items you get down there, while trying to recover super cool ancient relics from the bosses on each floor. In this game, the gold you get from the mine as you go through acts as the progression throughout the whole game. When you die, a percentage of the gold you get on each run gets carried over to the next poor sod thrown in the mine after you. You can make this percentage bigger by upgrading the gold sack, but you can also use it to upgrade other stats like health, damage and throw distance, and other bonuses for your runs, like starting with the blessing, which is essentially a stat boost, or upgrading the amount of potions you can carry. To get gold, each room you go into in the mine has a chance of spawning it in the walls or around the floor, but before you mine it, you've got to kill the enemies in each room, unless you want to get beheaded, you know, you do you. One of the main draws of this game is the progression. It is so exciting every time you jump into the mine as you try to get more and more gold to come back with each time, so that you can get deeper and deeper, so that you can get even more gold, and then spend it all like you just got your student loan in. It's a very satisfying cycle, and gold is so satisfying to collect, so with the fundamental progression making the gradual progress so addicting as you make it to each new area, beat each boss and unlock more of the hub, the game really sinks its teeth into you, and fast. So to get further into the mine, you're equipped with an extremely complicated moveset, requiring precise button inputs and years of studying the ancient Shaolin monk technique. And now once you get a hold of that, the player character can swing the pickaxe they have in their hand and throw it as well. On top of that, you can jump, which acts like a dodge roll because you're invincible while you're in the air, and you have active potion slots if you need to drink one in a fight. These potions can do all sorts of things like heal you or drop a million bombs. Of course, all of these actions will take years to master, but once you do, it feels really good. Despite the apparent simplicity of combat, there is something about it which just makes it really engaging. It has the sauce, maybe because the items you get along the way enhance the base kit in really fun ways, or because there's a lot of care put into how the character and their actions control. You can just walk up and take a couple swings at the enemy, but ranged play is viable too, and it's also really fun to just hop around like a rabbit with an unhealthy bloodstream, taking swings and jumping immediately to animation cancel the hit, and also make sure that you don't get hit in return. It's something where you'll have to decide for yourself whether it's fun enough for you to play the whole game with, but even though I really like how it feels at the start, once the run you're on picks up the pace and you start getting items, the combat quickly snowballs into an adrenaline overload. There are a lot of items in the game, a topic which does have some interesting conversation points on its own, but the bottom line is there are a gazillion items that you can use, and all of them affect the character in different ways. There are some which simply increase the swing damage of your pickaxe, there are some which mutate that attack, or the ranged one, like this one I got that splits the throw into 3 different pickaxes. There are items which affect the bomb you drop, how picking up gold affects the battlefield, one which makes you do damage and an AoE around you when you're hit. The point is, anything that could be manipulated in this game will be manipulated, and eventually the pretty simple base kit evolves into something unstoppable, where like every button you press has about 6 different effects, and somehow, some way enemies die. I don't really know why most of the time, it just happens. These items combo really well together too, not just because there are a ton of creative ways that you can put their effects together, but also because some of them actually combine together. I don't know all the combinations, but sometimes when you pick up 2 items, they combine to have their effects merge and strengthened. This adds so much to the chaos of each fight and how unstoppable you become, right? One combo I found while writing the script even was during one of the boss fights in the game. I had stacked up damage blessings early on, which I got from altars, where you get a perk that affects things like strength and healing numbers, like I said before, in return for a curse, which disadvantages you with things like less gold earns or slower attack speed. Anyway, I cleansed myself of them, so I was doing a lot of damage pretty early on. So I get into this fight and drop some bombs because I picked up way too many of them, and they are doing crazy damage at this point because of the damage blessings, things, and the fact that this boss's health is split between its arms and the orb circling it. I also had the item I mentioned before, which damages the area around you with the same damage you take, so I accidentally blew myself up, took a huge amount of damage, but then the item I had turned that damage into my own damage, and the boss died almost instantly. And this was the turning point for the snowball of power I was about to have. The snowball effect is really quick, and you feel like you're getting powerful very quickly, but what's interesting is that despite this power, you still have to be conscious of the enemies you're fighting somehow. The enemy design and variety in this game, especially for one that can be really short if you're good at these games, is kind of amazing. Every new area you get to adds a ton of enemies and adds reskins of the previous enemies with different or expanded attacks. Fuck those worms, bro. Probably the only thing that items in this game don't manipulate is the player's movement options, and sure, there are ones that make you move faster, but because the way you move is so simple, you really have to be aware of how you control the space you're in. Because enemies will be attacking you all the time, all in different ways too. Projectiles, plain melee enemies, backstabbing melee enemies, those annoying ones that make explosions under you, little swarm poison dudes, all need to be taken into consideration at all times. And the thrill of clearing a room flawlessly while avoiding everything in it became something I kept seeking again and again. Sure, like most roguelikes, there are moments where you have so much power that it doesn't really matter what enemies are in the room, but before that gradient gets out of control, these enemies are really great roadblockers for early runs. And until you master the game, they really keep you on your toes, which offsets how simple the combat may feel really nicely. What may drag the experience down for some people though is the nature of the power you have, because it's not really customizable. In this game, you don't ever choose what items you get, except for when they rarely appear in the shop and you get the option to buy them, but you know, even still. Usually to get them, you walk into one of the item rooms shown on the map and there's one sitting there for you to pick up. So you never really choose your build, you just have to use what gets given to you. This might not be a huge problem, because loads of other games do that too, if you didn't get about 2.4 billion items per run. On every floor, you're guaranteed an item, and you'll often find another couple in chests or the shop or some event, so these things rack up really quickly, and what you'll find, especially towards the later runs, is that you keep getting the same items over and over again. And I can hear you now saying, whoa, didn't you just say there were loads of items in this game? Yeah, I did, and thank God there are, because that way there is a little variation in each run, but I would honestly say that it feels like maybe anywhere from 60 to 70% of my items each run are identical to the last one. Now obviously this isn't really applicable for most of the game, but when you get to the point where your runs are getting to the final area each time, they lose a fair bit of originality. The game feeds you so many items, when to keep it fresh I would love to not have so many, because what's the point in a massive arsenal of items in the game that you could get when you're going to get all of them anyway? And this is where I think the game loses some replayability for me. With runs feeling quite similar every time, I look towards the other modes to see if I can get sub playtime out of them. However, one mode is a daily run type thing, but the only caveat is that you are nerfed into the absolute floor. Not even the floor actually, they bury you halfway to the core of the earth, 2,000 miles into the ground, and say, can't wait to see how you get out of this one. Now I'm not saying difficulty is bad, some people will love this, but I don't see the appeal in going for a run where both your arms are broken, you get no gold, every enemy is Dark Eater Medea, and you also have hypothermia. It's really lovely that they have a daily mode in this game, but the difficulty modifiers make it hard for me to want to play it over a normal run, because for me, the line in which the game stops being fun is crossed just a little bit. There's another mode, which sounds promising at first. In this one, you get to pick your items every so often and upgrade your character as the run goes along at set checkpoints. This one, in theory, allows you to truly create your own build, and even if the game doesn't give you a ton of options, at least you get to pick what you want, right? Yeah, so tell me why I have to choose between chests having no items and every enemy spawning spiders on death. They almost had me. I don't know why I have to choose a curse. I don't want one, not unless I'm getting something for it, like in the classic ones where you trade a curse for a blessing or an item. No, I just have to live with chronic pain to get the items I want. So the game can get tiring at the end. Unless you dabble in masochism, the options there for you at the end of the game aren't brilliant, and eventually runs feel quite similar. But you know what? Maybe this game isn't meant to be a forever roguelike, because as a package, a small in-between games package, Undermine feels absolutely perfect. This game gives you a ton of adrenaline and enjoyment, but doesn't overstay its welcome. When you're done with it, you're done with it, and that's okay, because it serves its little niche as a short, spontaneous and exciting little roguelike really well. You don't get hundreds of hours out of it, but you do get a fun, addictive little romp until you're done with it. I bought it 3 times on 3 different platforms just to give it a run through for 10 to 20 hours and then say, awesome, that's done, next game please. Because what's there is made with so much love, and it's such a nice little quick burst of joy, so I would highly recommend slotting it into your schedule, because it's worth experiencing, if only to have a fun little game to play in between the 100-hour behemoths of the modern day. It's a great comfort game, so hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I do.